In 1945, Franklin Roosevelt met King Abdel Aziz on a warship in the Suez Canal. The president was dying. The war was ending. And the two men made a deal that would quietly shape the next 8 decades of global power. America would protect Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia would sell its oil in dollars. Only dollars. That handshake didn't just secure oil. It created a machine that prints American influence without printing a single extra dollar bill. And right now, that machine is making sounds it's never made before. Here's what most people miss about money. The US dollar isn't powerful because America has the most gold, or the biggest economy, or the best technology. The dollar is powerful because the world needs it to buy the one thing modern civilization can't function without: energy. Every country needs oil. Japan needs it, Germany needs it, China needs it. And for the last 50 years, if you wanted oil, you needed dollars first. Didn't matter what currency your country used, didn't matter if you liked America or hated it, you converted your currency into dollars. Then you bought oil. This created a permanent global demand for U.S. currency that had nothing to do with American products or American debt. It's called the Petrodollar system, and it's the closest thing to financial magic the modern world has ever seen. Let's walk through how absurd this actually is. Imagine you run a country, let's say South Korea. Your economy runs on manufacturing. You make cars, phones, semiconductors. You export them. You earn money. But your factories need energy. They need oil. So you take the money you earned and you convert it into dollars. Not because you want to, because you have to. Now you use those dollars to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. The Saudis take your dollars, but here's the twist. They don't spend all of them. They can't. There's too many. So they do what every oil exporter has done since the 1970s. They buy U.S. Treasury bonds. They lend the money back to the U.S. government at interest. Read that again. You bought oil, the Saudis got paid, then the Saudis lent that money back to the U.S. government. America gets to borrow cheaply, America gets to run deficits without immediate consequences, and all you got was fuel and a weaker position in the global financial system. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a structure, and it's why America can carry a national debt over $34 trillion without collapsing. The world keeps lending because the world keeps needing dollars, and the world keeps needing dollars because oil is priced in dollars. But structures don't last forever, especially when the foundation starts to crack. In June 2024, something quiet happened. A 50-year agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia expired, the one that explicitly tied Saudi oil sales to the dollar. The media barely covered it. There were no emergency summits, no press conferences, just a contract that ran out, and Saudi Arabia chose not to renew it. Now, this doesn't mean the Saudis immediately stopped using dollars. They didn't. Most of their oil is still sold in dollars because most of the global system still runs on dollars. Inertia is a powerful thing. But the optionality changed. The commitment disappeared, and for the first time in half a century, Saudi Arabia can sell oil in yuan, in euros, in rupees, in whatever currency makes sense for the buyer. That's not a small shift. That's the door opening. Let's zoom out. Why would Saudi Arabia even consider this? The relationship with America has been stable, profitable, strategically sound. But stable doesn't mean static, and the world in 2024 looks nothing like the world in 1974. China is now Saudi Arabia's largest oil customer, not America. China buys more than 25% of Saudi oil exports, and China doesn't want to pay in dollars. It wants to pay in yuan. It's been pushing for this for years, offering incentives, building infrastructure, creating alternatives. Then there's Russia. After the West froze Russian dollar reserves in 2022, every other oil exporter on the planet started doing the same math. If dollars can be weaponized, if access to the dollar system can be turned off with a political decision, then maybe dollars aren't as safe as they seem. Maybe diversification isn't just smart, maybe it's survival. Saudi Arabia sees this. They're not ideological, they're pragmatic. And pragmatism says don't put all your eggs in one currency basket when that basket has started swinging unpredictably. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. If the petrodollar weakens, America's borrowing costs go up. Not a little, a lot. Because if the world doesn't need as many dollars, it doesn't need to buy as many Treasury bonds. And if demand for Treasury bonds drops, interest rates rise. The U.S. government has to pay more to borrow, which means more of the federal budget goes to interest payments, which means less money for everything else: defense, infrastructure, social programs, everything. Right now, the U.S. pays around $800 billion a year just in interest on the national debt. That's more than the defense budget. And that's with historically low rates propped up by global dollar demand. If that demand softens, if Treasury auctions start struggling, that number explodes. Some estimates suggest rates could double. The interest alone could become the largest single line item in the federal budget. This isn't speculation. This is arithmetic, and the math doesn't care about American exceptionalism. But here's the irony. The very thing that made the petrodollar powerful is the same thing making it fragile: ubiquity. The dollar is everywhere, which means it's in everyone's interest to keep it stable, which means even countries that want to move away from it can't do it quickly without hurting themselves. China holds over $1 trillion in U.S. assets. Japan holds even more. Europe's financial system is intertwined with dollar markets. If the dollar collapses, everyone loses. So the transition, if it happens, will be slow, incremental, almost invisible until it's not. Saudi Arabia selling oil in yuan to China doesn't break the system, it chips at it, then another chip, then another, and one day the structure that seemed permanent starts to look temporary. There's a darker edge to this. Currency dominance isn't just about economics. It's about leverage. When you control the currency the world uses, you control access to the global economy. You can sanction, you can freeze assets, you can isolate entire countries without firing a shot. The dollar has been America's most effective foreign policy tool for decades. If that tool weakens, the options narrow, which means other tools get used more. Military tools, the kind that cost lives instead of basis points. No one says this part out loud, but it's in every strategic document, every war game, every closed-door meeting at the Treasury and the Pentagon. The petrodollar isn't just an economic advantage, it's a stabilizer. And when stabilizers fail, systems get volatile. So what happens next? Probably nothing dramatic, probably a slow drift. Saudi Arabia will sell some oil in yuan, some in euros, some in dollars. The percentages will shift. Central banks will diversify reserves. The dollar will stay dominant, but less dominant. America will stay powerful, but less powerful. Or maybe that's wrong. Maybe we're closer to a tipping point than anyone realizes. Maybe the next financial crisis doesn't start in a bank. Maybe it starts in a currency market when Treasury auctions start failing and interest rates spike and the machine that's been running since 1945 finally seizes up. Roosevelt and King Abdelaziz made their deal 80 years ago. Neither man could have imagined how long it would last. But nothing lasts forever. Not empires, not agreements, not even the dollar. The question isn't whether the petrodollar will end. The question is what comes after, and whether America is ready for a world where it has to compete for influence instead of assuming it. Right now, that world is still theoretical, but it's getting less theoretical every year. Every yuan-denominated oil contract, every diversified reserve, every decision made in Riyadh that doesn't check with Washington first. The oil switch hasn't flipped yet, but someone's hand is on it, and they're starting to wonder what happens if they pull.